from Southern Colorado's high-definition news leader. This is News Channel 13, where the news comes first.
Firefighters from across the state are all joining forces to fight the Hayden Pass fire. New developments as they try to get it under control. I'm Greg Miller. We're live with the latest.
And I'm tracking warm, dry, and breezy conditions today, but changes are coming tonight that could help that fire situation. Details coming up.
Plus, new at noon, a scary morning on the roads.
We'll have details of what happened. One person is in the hospital with serious injuries after being hit by a car. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us for KRDO News Channel 13 at noon. I'm John Carroll.
And I'm Dana Clemens. The Hayden Pass wildfire is still growing in size.
We're keeping a close eye on the blaze as it creeps closer to Coaldale. Here's a look at the area the fire has burned so far. This map shows the perimeter of the Hayden Pass wildfire. Today, winds are expected to continue to blow the flames and smoke toward the east. And we just heard that smoky conditions could make it more difficult for firefighters to get to the flames today.
We have team coverage tracking the fire and conditions that affect its path. Storm Tracker 13's Mike Everett is closely watching wind speeds. KRDO News Channel 13's Greg Miller is in Salida at a fire camp now, where we just learned that the fire has grown by 600 acres. Now just short of 13,000 have burned. Good afternoon, Greg.
John and Dana, good afternoon. They do think that's a little bit of progress, especially when you consider the initial blow up over the weekend of the size of that fire. And as Dana, you just said a second ago, this is the fire camp where so many firefighters are basically trying to come together. They will set up here to kind of rest, recover, get more resources, and then go out and fight that. And the crews here said that they are extremely grateful for all of that additional support. No structures or additional evacuations have been ordered, and no firefighters so far have been injured. That is the good news from today's briefing, but the bad news, weather is not going to be helpful. Very hot, very dry, and very, very windy. Just within the last couple of hours, the winds really picked up. The fire spokesman late this morning told us that these conditions are only going to make things worse.
We do not anticipate this fire to be over quickly. This will be a long-term fire, especially in the wilderness area. Hopefully we'll have some solid fire containment lines closer to Coaldale in the coming days.
And obviously that news is very distressing to the people who have been out of their homes for 4 days now, and they don't know when they can go back. They're getting very, very concerned about what this fire may do to their properties, and you will be hearing from those people coming up in our next half hour on KRDO News Channel 13. For now, we're live in Salida. Greg Miller, KRDO News Channel 13.
Well, we want to get an idea. We can hear the wind in Greg's live shot, so that's not good.
And you can see all the sun and how dry it is behind him. Those weather conditions making it harder for firefighters to do their job and easier for that fire to spread. Storm Tracker 13's Mike Everett is in for Abby Aconi tracking that wildfire danger.
Good afternoon, Dana. Indeed, we are seeing the effects of that. As a matter of fact, right now, here's our exclusive Vero wireless camera over Pueblo, and you're starting to see that haze really build. Again, you should be able to see the mountains there, and we most definitely cannot. The reason why is we're seeing those winds blowing from the west and picking up, as Greg had mentioned. I'll show you how that works in a moment, but it's also hot, like Greg had mentioned. Already 84 degrees in the Springs, 86 in Pueblo, 84 is your number in Canyon City, 60s and 70s and 80s up high, and some temperatures getting warm out into the plains of La Junta. I've got you pegged to get to 100 degrees today, so we are warm and just getting warmer. Now, let's get to the winds. There's a couple really interesting things going on here. In Salida, 23 miles an hour. That is actually very close to where that fire is burning right now, so those gusts really picking up and blowing in the direction from the southwest, which is not what we want to see. 7 miles an hour in Canyon City right now, and then along the Front Range, seeing those winds start to switch and move southward, or actually northward from the south. And what that will do is increase the haze in the Springs. We got a bit of a break there yesterday, but it looks start to pick up a little bit later this afternoon. Live HD Doppler radar looking clean and clear. We're picking up a little bit of the smoke on the returns there, but for the most part, we are shower free. Now, as we go into the evening hours, again, we will continue to heat up. I've got Colorado Springs going to 90 today. I've got Pueblo getting into the upper 90s today, almost to 100 degrees. No showers in the forecast, but a front that is moving through a little bit later this evening will cool temperatures off and return rain chances to our forecast starting tomorrow, and that could be some good news for the firefighting effort. We'll talk about that in more detail coming up in my full forecast. John and Dana, back to you.
Thanks, Mike. Those living near the Hayden Pass fire are invited to a community meeting tonight. Looking ahead, the meeting will be held at the Cotopaxi School in the gym. Anyone who goes is welcome to ask questions and get more information about the fire. The doors open this evening at 6:30 and the meeting starts at 7 o'clock.
We have a little bit of good news about the fire burning on the Mountain Post. A Fort Carson spokesperson says it is now 40% contained and has stayed at 720 acres. There are still several fire departments fighting to put it out. However, fewer are working on it today than yesterday. The blaze started Sunday in rough terrain on the training range. Crews were not doing live fire gunnery when it started. The cause is still under investigation. And for the first time this year, El Paso County has handed down Stage 1 fire restrictions. That means no campfires unless they're in a permanently constructed fire grate, no barbecuing without an approved grill, and that also means no outdoor smoking. Huerfano County is now on Stage 2 restrictions. You can find out about those specifics at our website, krdo.com.
Would you be ready if you had to evacuate your home because of a wildfire? How quickly could you leave, and what would you take with you? KRDO News Channel 13 Scott Harrison put some homeowners to the test in the Skyway neighborhood of southwest Colorado Springs.
Natalie Cannon isn't wasting any time. With 4 kids, every second counts in an evacuation. And she has more than important documents on her list.
My journals, which is something that I've spent a lot of time with, and it's something that I feel like if something happened to me, my children would know who I was by reading them.
Cannon came out with journals and photo albums. Even the kids chose one thing to take with them.
And now I'm thinking more it needs to be centrally located so that it's easy to grab and go.
One of the most important lessons learned by many of the victims of the Black Forest and Waldo Canyon fires is that they left behind many irreplaceable items that they wished they had taken with them but didn't, simply because they didn't believe the fire would do what it did. Mike Lynn needed less than 5 minutes to grab his credit cards, important papers, and pets.
Well, even though I'm not ready, I have to leave in 5 minutes.
The lesson here, know in advance what's most important to you and your family, grab it, and go. In Colorado Springs, Scott Harrison, KRDO News Channel 13.
If you live in a wildfire zone, you should always have an evacuation bag ready to go. Include vital supplies like water, food, and a first aid kit. And then, in a waterproof container, keep important documents like your driver's license, the deed to your house, medical records, passports, and social security cards.
We're monitoring all of the wildfires currently burning in Colorado. You can find the very latest information on evacuations, the size of the fires, and much more on our website, krdo.com. You can also track the windy conditions with our Storm Tracker 13 weather app. You can find the latest wind speeds and fire danger in your area. Download it for free from the App Store or Google Play.
In other local news, one man is hurt after getting hit by a car. It happened around 6:30 this morning. The man was riding his bike in the area of South Circle on the Hancock Expressway. Police say the cyclist has serious injuries and was taken to the hospital. Investigators don't think any drugs, alcohol, or reckless driving were involved. Briefly this morning, one northbound lane of Circle was closed while the major accident unit investigated. The lanes are now back open.
Several victims of the Aurora Theater shooting who lost a lawsuit against movie theater owner Cinemark say the company is now trying to overcharge them for legal costs. Earlier this year, a jury ruled against a group of 27 victims and their families who filed a civil suit against Cinemark. The theater chain was found not liable for the mass shooting in 2012 at the Aurora Century 16 Theater. Cinemark asked that the plaintiffs pay nearly $700,000 in costs associated with the trial. The victims say that's unfair, according to the Denver Post. A judge will ultimately rule on the costs, and the victims can appeal that decision.
A woman is recovering from serious injuries this morning after an apparent sexual assault in Colorado Springs. It happened in the 300 block of Cheyenne Boulevard, that's south of downtown. Authorities say the woman reported an unknown man who crawled through her window and then physically and sexually assaulted her. Gary Powell was arrested at his home. He faces charges of sexual assault, first-degree assault, and first-degree burglary. Powell is a registered sex offender.
One man is under arrest for the December death of a developmentally disabled victim who choked on their food. John Ledbetter is charged with criminally negligent homicide of an at-risk person. Colorado Springs police recently arrested him. The state agency that oversees at-home care informed police after they found out that Ledbetter had violated the victim's care plan.
3 people are under arrest accused of stealing a car in Pueblo. It happened Monday in the 900 block of Catalpa Street. A man was shot when he went to meet a woman. Then police say 3 men shot him through the driver's side window. Ricardo Suazo is the accused shooter. He faces charges of first-degree assault and robbery. Ricardo Gomez was arrested for a restraining order, and Joshua Woodall was arrested on possession of meth.
A former surgical tech at Swedish Medical Center in Englewood has pleaded guilty to federal charges. Rocky Allen is accused of stealing painkillers and possibly exposing surgical patients to HIV and hepatitis. Allen pleaded guilty to stealing fentanyl from syringes during surgery. Nearly 3,000 patients were then asked to get tested for HIV and hepatitis. We know that some patients confirm they have hepatitis C. Allen recently tested positive for HIV.
First, there was Brexit. Now, David Cameron is making his exit. Coming up, the latest on Britain's change of leadership.
And for months, we've been hearing about the Takata airbag recall, but many owners appear to be ignoring it. We'll look at the risks.
And there's lots of damage, but amazingly no injuries after powerful storms struck parts of Florida.
And winds are picking up in the high country right now, 23 miles an hour from the southwest in Salida. Not good news for the firefighting effort. I'll pinpoint exactly what that means coming up in my full forecast when we come back.